Hello everyone, welcome to the Next Generation Lab Scholars weekly live. The Next Gen Lab Scholars is just a platform that connects researchers, scientists, students, and and should I say professors, those in the field of science, bringing them together in order to bridge, in order to promote interdisciplinary collaboration and securing opportunities. That's what we are here. Every week we create awareness by making weekly videos and also meeting on live sessions like this to discuss issues as relates and all of that. So today with me is Salama Alu. So I'll be giving a brief intro of who our guest is for today. Okay, Alu Salama is a dedicated microbiologist and a researcher with a strong foundation in molecular biology, bioinformatics, and public health initiatives. He's equipped with hands-on expertise in pathogen detection, microbial analysis, and AI-assisted research. He bridges the gap between laboratory science and data-driven solutions. He is a graduate of the University of Jos with a Bachelor of Science in Microbiology. Alo has demonstrated a commitment to advancing scientific knowledge through projects like evaluating the antimicrobial activity of Nigella sativa seed extract and contributing to research at National Veterinary Research Institute. His technical proficiency spans through microscopy, polymerase chain reaction, DNA extraction, and computational tools like the SPSS, MATLAB, and bioinformatics platform. He currently serves as a research assistant at the University of Jos, where he collaborates with senior faculty officers to design experiments, mentor students, and support academic publications. His interdisciplinary approach extends to community impact, including organizing medical outreach programs, and leading anti-drug abuse initiatives, which were some of his achievements during his national service. He also doubles as a volunteer for the Next Generation Laboratory Scholars platform. So we are happy to have you here today, Mr. Alu Salama.
Thank you very much. I'm
Okay,
happy to be here.
okay. So we'll just delve right into it. Our topic for today will be on antimicrobial resistance. We'll be looking at it from this angle, the Africa's silent antimicrobial resistance crisis. Why infections are no longer responding to treatment. Okay, so the World Health Organization reported in 2024 that Africa has the highest antimicrobial resistance as well as study on antimicrobial resistance global burden published in the year 2022. More than half of bacterial bloodstream infections reported in African hospitals are resistant to first-line antibiotics, according to the World Health Organization GLAS 2023. Many countries in Africa still lack routine diagnostic testing for antimicrobial resistance, which means most treatments are blind treatments. So, over to you, Salama. What is antimicrobial resistance?
Basically, antimicrobial resistance is the situation where microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, and the likes develop resistance to antibiotics that should ordinarily be bactericidal or bactericidal to them.
Okay. So, thank you very much for that. Okay, but from your definition, there seems to be a lot of grammar that even the sugar cane seller out there might struggle to understand. So, can you break it down a little bit so we can carry our viewers along? Thank you.
Let me look for best way to put it. The situation whereby microorganisms now, we believe that our viewers should be able to know, should know rather, what microorganisms are and what they do. And then since they cause illnesses, there are drugs that should ordinarily kill them and then bring about sound health. Now, when these drugs do not work against these microorganisms now, there seems to be antimicrobial resistance that has been developed. Now, that is basically they have developed resistance mechanisms. They have developed ways by which they evade the effectiveness or activity of these drugs against them.
Okay, so even the pathogenic microorganisms, they don't want to die. They still want to remain there and then continue causing this havoc.
Exactly.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, I want us to look at diagnosis and treatment gap as it relates to antimicrobial resistance. So, the World Health Organization data shows that 42% of African hospitals do not have routine bacterial culture testing. What does this now mean for accurate treatment?
Okay, so what it means for average treatment is should I use inferential? Yes. Differential diagnosis now. So you just diagnose you based on your symptoms and give you drugs without testing to determine with every degree of certainty that yes, this is this and that is that.
Okay, okay. So, well, okay. What is then bacterial culture as
Okay,
it
so
relates
bacterial culture is
bacterial culture as it
okay,
relates
go on.
to antimicrobial resistance?
Okay, so as it relates to antimicrobial resistance, do you care to elaborate so that I don't say something that's off course?
Okay, remember we from the metrics we saw that the World Health Organization data shows that 42% of African hospitals do not have routine bacterial culture testing. So, what is this routine bacterial culture testing? And then the predisposition on we having accurate treatment and all of that.
Okay, so if I understand you clearly, routine bacterial culture testing now, that is ASTs now, antimicrobial susceptibility testings now. Am I on track? Because if I get you clearly, so that's what
Okay,
getting now. So
before
antimicrobial susceptibility.
before the antimicrobial susceptibility testing, I believe there's a way they get to the has to do with the isolation of these microorganisms before you can now say. So, I want you to explain to our viewers, right, what this bacterial culture
Yes,
um,
yes.
is, and then how it's now transcend. In fact, just lead us on. You can take us on a journey from process of sample collection up to the, when a laboratory scientist is able to ascertain that this particular strain of microorganism is resistant to these antibiotics.
Okay, so moving from sample collection, different samples are collected different ways. And then they need to be transported to the laboratory immediately after collection for very obvious reasons. Because some samples can be tampered with and all that. So for stuff like should we use food samples now, for example, you get sterile bags, you get them in them, and move them directly to the lab. It could be biopsy samples as well. You need to use a cold chain for those for stuff like that, and you get them to the lab immediately after collection. Now they are also processed differently, but then usually there's a serial dilution, then we separate different dilution factors, and we then whichever. Uh, After that, it means growing. So you strike now on your media. So media now, that's the plate where the microorganisms are grown. So you make a strike on your media plate now. It could be solid media, which is usually the case, or liquid media, that's either broth or agar medium, respectively. Now, after the of the growth of the microorganism rather, now there are confirmatory tests now to ascertain the identity of the microorganism involved. So they are called biochemical tests, and also a series of other tests. Now, in more advanced situations, we go as polymerase chain reaction, ELISA, and all that. That's molecular and serological and all that to identify. But in less advanced situations, will just be a biochemical test, a series of them, where the organism either tests positive or negative, and then you are able to determine which organism that is. Now, after the test, after the identity of the organism has been confirmed, that is when we now proceed to AST, that's antimicrobial susceptibility testing. That is now to determine basically what happens in AST is to determine which antibiotics are active, or rather will be effective rather, or not effective against the confirmed isolate.
Okay.
Should I just go our listeners?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that. That has been elaborate enough. Okay, taking us on the journey from sample collection and up to the point of identification, the antimicrobial susceptibility testing. Now, it now takes us to our next question. So, how are clinicians expected to prescribe antibiotics without lab confirmation? So, should they be allowed to continue to prescribe antibiotics without lab confirmation? Because most of them they feel um, there's no need because they've been doing this over and over, year in year out. So once you come with it, go and take this antibiotic. There's no need to carry out lab tests. So are they to continue, or is really a danger? And is it really a danger that predisposes one to the antimicrobial resistance?
Okay, so everything isn't as it seems. So under ideal situations, it is only normal for laboratory tests to be carried out before diagnosis and then subsequent prescription of antibiotics. However, in certain emergency situations, you can't wait for, because all these tests take time. So you can't possibly wait for all the confirmatory tests and all that under emergency situations. However, I will advise, and then data also supports my advice now, that it is very crucial for laboratory tests to be confirmed before administering antibiotics, because there are cases of misdiagnosis and all that which we have looked at some 2 months ago. So there might be the case that one might be misdiagnosed, like that's just based on preference, and then we give him something that's now working for a different entirely, and then it's liver and all that, as it goes down and all. So
Yeah, okay.
that's it basically.
All right. Next thing we'll be looking at animal and agricultural sector, how they also promote antimicrobial resistance. Okay, from the metric we have, the FAO reported in 2023 that antibiotic use in livestock in Africa is among the highest in emerging economies, because you and I, you can attest to it, to the fact that we now have these boosters that once you get your day old chick, before you know it's just a matter of weeks, and then it's now as big as a goat. So farmers are really boasting that this is what they even go around giving the same update to the other farmers that they want them to do well also because they are just out to make money. So they just load them this boost eating chicken. They see you as, oh, you've made it in life. But the harsh reality is that these chickens now are being loaded with all these boosters, being loaded with all these antibiotics. I was reading, I was scrolling on LinkedIn the other day, and I saw a post that, for example, now if someone should take a streptomycin antibiotic, right, and then spread it over food, you see that people, nobody will want to eat that food. But indirectly, we are consuming antibiotics like on a very l- large scale, day in day out. No, it's not a matter of year in year out, but day in day out through the livestock we eat and all of that. So how does the misuse of these antibiotics as it relates to livestock affect human?
You said how does what?
The misuse of these antibiotics affect humans because we keep on loading our livestock because we need to make money. So how does the misuse of this antibiotic affect human? Because
Okay,
you
so
know
the
that at
misuse.
the end of the day just be taking antibiotic just like that. But these livestock now are the ones the antibiotics are being fed to. So how does it now reaches the point of affecting humans? So I want you to like just create that link.
Okay, so let me begin by this. So dietitians now will always advise that yes, it is good to cook your meat properly before consumption, and there's a reason why. We'll get to that later on. However, once this is administered now to these animals, be it pets or cows or whichever animals it is, could be goats and all of that. But then mostly implicated in birds because you get to bed and then you load them with antibiotics, and in 6 weeks time someone is already purchasing them for consumption. So you see that the antibiotics are still present in that bed. It hasn't gone anywhere.
Exactly, and you see, most of, in fact, in most weddings now, they don't. I think most people doing weddings that would even make you slaughter chickens and all of that. They train it themselves, so they just
Yes.
they train it themselves. They just load these boosters, antibiotics, and all of that, and before you know, people will come. You and I will just go to I told they share chicken in this wedding. These people they have.
Yeah. And then we consume these antibiotics that are still present here in these beds. And mind you, most of them have not really been properly cooked.
Exactly,
And then
exactly.
even if they were properly cooked, these antibiotics are chemical based and all that. Though not all, but then chemical based. And then the heat now brings about other reactions and all that. And now we won't be consuming them.
Exactly. So it's really an issue that the policymakers will have to, because I was made to understand that in the UK, right, they have, you see these day-old chicks that they have a central board regulates even the is it the chicken, the poultry sector, in the sense that like the day old chicks now, they have designated companies, and these companies they have any of the kind of antibiotic this this, and then it creates that they can even trace where and when, okay, where this chicken was bought from, the quantity of the quantity or the dose of antibiotic it was exposed to and all of that. So but in Nigeria here you see that, oh, I can just, in fact I can just start a poultry tomorrow. All I need to do just get a cage, just connect lights there, and then introduce my chicken and then load them with, and then I start selling. People, in fact, the fatter they are, the more customers you get, because people want return on
You get it first.
on their money. Okay, so we'll not dwell on that. Okay, so why is this part of antimicrobial resistance often ignored? The animal and agriculture sector.
Well,
So why is this part in particular of antimicrobial resistance often ignored?
I will say that's majorly due to ignorance. That majority of people do not know that yes, these pathogens, these resistant pathogens could pass from animals to humans. So I believe that's ignorance is the major cause of it rather. However, I don't have any data to back up the claim.
Okay, in essence, they say disease no dey kill black man, right? So we have this natural.
African man, yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, we'll move on to data and the surveillance gap. So only 15 African countries reported antimicrobial resistance surveillance data consistently to the World Health Organization in 2024. So how can Africa build a strong surveillance system that can monitor the
Okay.
spread of this antimicrobial resistance? So how can they build a very strong surveillance system that can do the monitoring, and then we can also give report to the World Health Organization, and likewise.
Okay, so thinking within that lines, that everything it boils down to policy now, and then how they are enacted. So, but then look at example of the gene bank now. We can start from there because the Europeans have theirs. I think there was one in Japan. I've forgotten their initials. I will have stated it. So we can begin from there because when we have these resistant genes, that is how not to forget them now. Because even you and I, as normal human, you have an idea now, and you feel to put it down on paper, you tend to forget it after some time. Now, imagine a situation whereby you are able to identify resistant genes within Africa now, and we have a bank whereby we store them. We see that over time, we will have collected majority of the resistant genes that within Africa now. That is, which is what is there. Let me. Can I briefly search the initials for that in Japan
Um,
and Europe as well?
that will be some other time because we really don't have time. I think we have about 6 more minutes, so we'll just make ample use as we still have questions we need um, to answer before the time elapses. Thank you very much
Okay.
for that. So okay, just briefly, what is the role of university and students in this fight?
Okay, so on the role of universities and students in this field, that is why students carry out research projects.
Okay.
And those research could actually be used. But you and I know that the reverse is the case. So majority of the research are not actually being used. And then you go to so many universities and then their laboratories are heavily funded. So imagine that you go to a microbiology laboratory and there's no PCR thermocycler. In fact, I'm going too far. There are no reagents in the
There's
lab to
no
carry out
autoclave.
biochemical tests.
There's no autoclave.
There's no autoclave. You understand? So the role of universities now basically is research, and then on the part of the students, they should actually take their research projects seriously because those could actually be used outside. But then we all know that reverse is the case.
Yes, because most students, okay, they just want to pass, right? They don't
Yes.
really see the. In fact, I was on that line initially before my project supervisor changed me from that part. I already had projects that, oh, all I needed to do was to print. But this man said, "Oh, you must, you must start from the scratch." So, and I'm still grateful
And
for his
grateful it
decision.
paid off.
Yeah.
I said it's a great thing it paid off.
Yes, yes, actually. Okay. Thank you very much for that. The next question now, the environmental spread of South African study found resistant bacteria in 80% of sampled rivers near hospitals. So, what does this say about waste management? And could the environment become the biggest silent driver of antimicrobial resistance? Because remember, we
Yes.
go to hospitals
Okay.
in order to seek help, to get therapy from whatsoever illness we are facing. When the river banks close to those hospitals, like a research was carried out here in South Africa that found out that 80% of those rivers contain resistant bacteria. So what does it say? The environment become the biggest silent driver of antimicrobial resistance.
Okay, so the numbers already speak for me. So imagine a situation whereby you have 80% positivity in test. So I would say yes, absolutely. And then majorly due to ignorance of people, because most people believe that yes, when I go here, I go to seek help. And then they are ignorant of the fact that this place I have come to seek help will also be the death of me. Though I'm not suggesting that people should run from the hospital, people should still go. Yes, but then the numbers already speak for themselves. So
Okay,
yes, so
okay.
yes.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so just a brief summary now that antimicrobial resistance is already reversing more than 50 years of medical progress in Africa. If nothing changes, simple infections could become untreatable by 2035, according to the World Health Organization risk modeling. So it really speaks a lot about antimicrobial resistance. Now to our guest for final words before we call it a day on antimicrobial resistance.
Okay. So basically, all I will have to say is the indiscriminate antibiotics is something that should be looked upon by authority, and then there should be active down, because one should not just walk to buy 6 kg of with no prescription, because those are contributors to undoing 50 years of medical advancement in Africa. Like there's no reason why I should be, or I should just go and get gentamicin without a prescription. Yes,
No,
there should be
but
bodies that are actively fighting this.
so Nigeria is a place of possibilities, not just Nigeria, right? So as long as you have money, when you have money, they will not even know, okay,